I've just come to the crazy realization that I've driven every new Chinese electric car currently on sale in Australia. Chinese electric cars are not without controversy, and it's almost like watching a reality TV show. You've got a pricing war going on between MG, BYD and GWM to see who can take the crown of the cheapest EV in Australia. And then you've got brands like Hyundai who are seemingly struggling to compete with new cars like the Hyundai Kona Electric. Not to mention, you will never see more strange quirks and wild design than with electric Chinese cars. So today we're gonna go top to bottom of all fully electric Chinese cars currently sold in Australia, and I'm gonna tell you which I like the least to which I like the most. So let's start with my least favorite, the MG ZS EV, which comes in at number 7 on my list. Now, I want to stress that the MG ZS EV is not inherently a bad car, but it is definitely my least favorite because frankly, it's the oldest on this list and it's feeling its age. We reviewed the long range, which is new and it comes with a 72.6 kilowatt hour battery, big, with 440 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, and that's pretty good. But because it's not built on a bespoke EV platform like pretty much all of its competition, it simply doesn't have the same efficiency. So real world range is closer to like 380 kilometers for us. It's also really slow to charge, 60 kilowatt maximum. So going from 0 to 80% battery takes about an hour, which is just plain bad. And with just 115 kilowatt of power and 280 newton meters of torque, it's certainly at the bottom of performance in the class as well. We actually timed the 0 to 100 kilometers in 8.92 seconds, which is, it's pretty meh for an electric car. It does have a nice interior, but the tech falls short of competition and the ride quality is very so-so. And then there is just the price of it, which in Victoria, where I live, it starts at $45,215 for the smaller battery Excite, and the long range is $55,635. Drive away, to be fair. MG actually dropped the price massively by $6,000 late last year, likely because sales are getting eclipsed by the MG4 and the BYD Atto 3, both of which they start much cheaper. Number 6 is the GWM Ora, also known as the Good Cat or Funky Cat in other markets. I've actually spent time now in 2 different Ora grades, the extended range and the GT. And actually it is quite impressive for the spec that you get. It's the cheapest EV in Australia at the moment, with the standard range being offered for just $38,415 drive away with a 310 kilometer WLTP range. And that's actually a $4,000 discount, which extends across the range. However, the one you actually want is the extended range, and that'll set you back about $44,667 drive away. And that has a 420 kilometer WLTP, which is actually pretty good. In fact, it's really quite efficient, so you will get that 420 kilometers of real world range, which cannot be said of most EVs. Although it only has 126 kilowatt of power and 250 newton meters of torque, it's actually really lightweight for an EV at 1,500 kilos, and that makes it feel a lot faster than it is. In fact, we timed the 0 to 100 at just 7.91 seconds. Really, the biggest issue for me is practicality, where boot space is just so small at 228 liters. That makes it difficult to recommend for those who regularly carry things in the boot. I will say the inside is really well laid out and it is very comfortable. It clearly takes some inspiration from Mini Coopers, but hey, I'm all for copying the good stuff. But one of the biggest downfalls of the Ora is that it's just got too many quirks. So many that it could never really be a mainstream car. From the logo being an exclamation point, to the lights doing a dance when you unlock the car, to the overall VW Beetle-like styling. Even when changing the driving modes, it plays a strange tune. I'm all for quirkiness, as you guys know, so I actually really love the car. And the GT was a very good looking EV, but it does draw a lot of attention, which really not everyone wants. I think if you can look past the quirkiness though, a lot of people are going to be really charmed by the GWM Ora, but it's fair to say that it's not going to be for everyone, so it's hard to give it a higher spot. Now, before we move on to the next Chinese car, I want to thank today's video sponsor, us. We've partnered with Australia's leading car buying service, Motorscout, to help you buy your next car at carsauce.com/buy. It is 100% free for you. We will get you literally the best deals because we have our thousands of dealers compete on price. We can also find you in stock cars others can't because we have thousands of dealers. It is completely hassle-free because nobody wants that. Seriously, there is nothing worse than people calling you just to annoy you. And we vetted a bunch of car buying services, and after speaking to Pete, the founder of Motor Scout, and seeing thousands of 5-star reviews, we know you will be in the best hands with us and Motor Scout. So if you're interested in buying a cheap Chinese EV or any other new car, head to carsauce.com/buy and let us help you get the best deal for your next car. Alrighty, so number 5 on this list, and I think a lot of you are gonna be very surprised to hear this, but it's the MG4 XPower. Now, I've split up the MG4 XPower from the regular MG4, which we will come back to later on this list, but the MG4 XPower, it might as well be a totally bespoke model. Apart from outright speed, which is of course incredible in the MG4 XPower, it otherwise feels a little overhyped. It has a crazy 320 kilowatt of power and 600 newton meters of torque, so you get a substantial amount of power from a front and rear electric motor. In fact, we timed the 0 to 100 km/h sprint in just 3.98 seconds. That's crazy. And for just $63,973 drive away, it does provide Australia's best value drag car. But everything else about the MG4 XPower just does not contribute to a performance car. The front and rear motor, they don't really talk well to each other, and that can lead to some pretty undesirable cornering performance. The suspension is actually stiffer than the regular MG4 by 25%, but it's not necessarily quite enough to eliminate the body roll, considering that this is the MG4 XPower, the heaviest MG4 at 1.9 tons. And that is despite it not having the biggest battery that you can get in an MG4. It's too bad as well that it doesn't have a bigger battery too, because the WLTP is just 385 kilometers, so not great. The interior too is shared mostly with the entry-level MG4, which is almost half the price of the MG4 XPower. And although I still really like the interior, it just means that it doesn't feel quite as special or special enough for its relatively big asking price. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun to drive, but it didn't quite live up to the hype for me. And that is the same for number 4 on this list, the BYD Seal. Now, to be fair, I've only driven the performance variant, which is a very similar story to the MG4 XPower. It also has a stupid amount of power from its dual motor setup, specifically 390 kilowatt of power and 670 newton meters of instant torque from its front and rear motors at $72,514 drive away. And again, is fantastic value, especially for a Grand Tourer. Note I said Grand Tourer and not performance car. You see, BYD are going straight for the Model 3 performance with their naming convention. And when we timed the 0 to 100 to be 4.09 seconds, it is very much breakneck fast. Not quite as fast as the 3.8 seconds they said, but then you start to turn a corner as well, and the body roll and cornering characteristics, it's clearly tuned for comfort and really not performance. The interior is incredibly nice, and it is very comfortable overall, but the performance trim specifically was a little disappointing, I can't lie. But it does have a great range of 520 kilometers. I actually think the pick of the range would be the Premium, which comes with the same 82.56 kilowatt hour battery, but a single rear motor and 570 kilometers of WLTP range. And make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, because we will be comparing the BYD Seal Premium with the new Tesla Model 3 Highland, and you don't want to miss that one. It's going to be pretty spicy. The BYD Atto 3 is next on my list, bringing us to my number 3 favorite. We recently did a comparison on the channel between this and the all-new Kona Electric, and it really shows why the BYD Atto 3 has been so successful in Australia. And actually, BYD are offering a $2,023 discount at the moment for all 2023 BYD Atto 3s. And considering the extended range version of the SUV costs $51,011 before that deal, it's fantastic value for an electric SUV. It has 150 kilowatt of power and 320 newton meters of torque, which is really good, but it does come with some Batman tires, and that ruins its ability to put the power down properly. But even with the tires, we managed to get a 0 to 100 kilometer time in just 7.55 seconds, which is pretty quick indeed. Still, with 420 kilometers of WLTP range, an incredibly funky but well-designed interior, and heaps of cargo room to boot, it is one of the most practical cars on this list. It is unfortunate though that the charging speed maxes out at just 80 kilowatt, because that means that a 0 to 80% charge will take 40 minutes at best. Still, a very good package overall, and an easy recommendation, especially for those who are looking for a cheap and cheerful electric car. And yet, I would take this BYD over the Atto 3, the Dolphin, and that's why it's my second highest recommendation. The Dolphin is a part of the same price wars as the GWM Ora we spoke about earlier, where Chinese brands want the title of the cheapest new electric car in Australia. It literally sells headlines, and starting at just $41,404 for the base model, with 340 kilometers of WLTP range, that's actually very good value. However, the grade I tested was the premium, and it was about $47,656 drive away. And that is definitely the grade you want. Think of the Dolphin as a slightly scaled down Atto 3. And that means you get better driving dynamics overall, thanks to its lower profile, while retaining much of the same functionality. And yes, that means it's faster than the Atto 3, actually quite significantly. The 0 to 100 km an hour is just 6.98 seconds that we timed. And that is despite having the exact same motor as the Atto 3 at the front axle with 150 kilowatt of power and 320 Newton meters of torque. The interior is incredibly nice, but more importantly, well designed and comfortable. And although it has the same slow charge speed as the Atto 3, because it is an LFP battery like all BYD Blade batteries, it means you can actually safely charge the battery to 100%, unlike lithium ion, which you should only ever charge to 80%, otherwise you risk battery degradation, at least at a much faster rate. But if it were my money, I'd buy the MG4 every day of the week. The MG4 was probably my favorite car of 2024. And like I said, the regular MG4 is very different to the MG4 XPower I had right at the bottom end of this list. And that's because MG have made one of the most dynamic, cheap electric cars ever. We actually drove the poverty spec MG4 Excite 51, which comes with a surprisingly punchy motor, boasting 125 kilowatt of power and 250 Newton meters of torque. And on a wet day, we timed the 0 to 100 at just 7.95 seconds. The craziest part is that the whole range is rear-wheel drive, which is different to every other cheap Chinese car on the market. And when you combine that with a starting price of $43,131 drive away and a range of 350 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, the MG4 is by far one of the most exciting cars you can drive for less than 50 grand. The pick of the range though is the MG4 Excite 64 for just $48,341 drive away, which is essentially the base model that we drove, but with a bigger battery and more power, meaning the WLTP is 450 kilometers of range, and it's still really quite fast at 0 to 100 in 7.2 seconds. I'll admit the ride is firm, but it feels really planted, actually quite Euro, much like you'll find in a BMW. The power delivery is so smooth and totally linear, with some of the best handling characteristics I've felt, thanks to its 50-50 weight distribution and low 1.6 ton weight for an EV, not to mention the interior. It's really, really nice. It feels premium and it's so nice and quiet. Practicality is also great. Being a hatchback, you get 363 liters of very usable space, and that's about 20 liters more boot space than even the BYD Dolphin. For me, there is no question in my mind, the MG4 is the best Chinese electric car you can buy in Australia today. But let me know what you guys think. Which Chinese EV do you think deserves the #1 spot? Let me know in the comment section below, just below that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget, if you want to buy any of these cars you see here, or any new car for that matter, make sure you head to carsauce.com/buy so we can help you buy your next car at the best price and for the lowest hassle experience. Alrighty, ciao for now.